broadcast, I think. Okay, it's now live. So
Okay. And you're still able to see my screen?
yes, I can see it.
Okay.
All right, it seems we've finally figured out all the setup issues, and sincere apologies for that. There is never a good time to have such setup issues, especially if you're starting something new like a user group for a tech community. But I think we are finally past all these hurdles, and I'm hoping people can finally hear me, see me. So what I'll do is I'll not take too much of a time since we've already lost a substantial time, and I'll hand it over to Roman, who's our Google expert and who will be conducting this webinar. So Roman, over to you. Okay, it seems we've not yet done with our fair share of issues.
People are joining in or still issues?
No, I mean, people have joined. So why don't you just share your screen and let's get started.
You want to wait a few more minutes, maybe? Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, yes, I can see it.
Okay. Yeah, if you want
So
to
I'll
wait
just,
a few more minutes, that's also fine. Yeah.
I think in interest of time and people have been waiting patiently, so let's just get started. I'll mute myself and then you can take over.
All right. So anything is there, just unmute and let me know if slow, fast, or anything of that sort. Yeah.
Sure, sure,
So
sure.
I'll get started. Yeah. All right, folks. Sorry about the issues that we had. And what I have with me over here is, just give you an overview of what GCPUG is about. We launched a community in Jaipur, and subsequent to that, we can have more events. And then I've got an overview of the Google Cloud platform with various demos that are set up. So I'll go through several demos here that sort of showcase a few of the services that are available on the platform, and then we could even have a Q&A if time permits. All right, so let's get started with what GCPUG is. So basically, it's a user group, a community of Google Cloud Platform, both users as well as people who would like to learn more about the platform. So that's basically a meeting place by which we can all come together, maybe share some knowledge about conduct tutorials or trainings, best practices, and more importantly, if there are any success stories with usage of GCP for your startup or your projects in the companies, then that is something you could share. We could learn from that how you've used it and take it from there. So really, sort of a meeting place where we all come together and discuss the various services on Google Cloud Platform. And what we have is this is the 6th chapter that we are launching today in Jaipur. So that's great. And I mean, in Gaurav, we've got an excellent person who can lead this initiative in Jaipur. Prior to that, in beginning of July is when we had launched 4 chapters: Mumbai, Pune, Chennai, Bangalore, and then last week we had a launch in Ahmedabad, and now it's in Jaipur. And the idea is that we could meet as frequently. Each of the chapter heads in the respective city have the full freedom to sort of arrange as many meetings as they want at whatever interval that suits the community. And it could even be a short meeting, or a demo or two, 30 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. It's entirely up to you folks how you would like to drive those activities in your chapter. And on the social media side, we've got some communities set up both in Google Plus as well as Facebook.
So
And
Ramin,
yeah,
Ramin,
tell
just
me.
sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
We may mostly see your video. Can you show your screen and maybe turn your video off?
Oh, it's in video mode.
Yep.
Okay.
Just share your screen so that we can see your slide deck. Yeah, we can see it now. Yeah, we can see it now.
Okay. All right. Yeah, so sorry about that. And yeah, please do stop me anytime. So on the chapter side of things, as I mentioned, Jaipur is the sixth chapter that we are launching right now. And on, how do we stay in touch with each other or share any notes around, GCP news that's happening. So we've got a couple of, groups that are set up. One is on G Plus and the other one is on Facebook. And after the event, we'll obviously send an email with the links to these groups so that you could join that. And over here, the idea is that any kind of news that's happening, or any tutorials, or any useful links. I mean, this would be just like any other online community. So if you want to know what's happening in GCPUG India, and if something is coming up on your chapter side of things, please do join the community and just join in the conversation. On Twitter, we don't have a dedicated account, but typically using this hashtag GCPUG is how we sort of tag most of the any tweets that are there on that. All right. So if I just go back one slide, which is probably what you couldn't see. So in short, GCP, the whole mission is that like-minded folks who are interested in the Google Cloud platform come together, and they share any of these things. Could be demos, best practices. We could have even workshops and success stories. All right, so I'll move forward. I mean, in short about myself, I've been involved with the Google Cloud platform for quite a while now, and of course started with App Engine, and I believe quite a few among those who joined in the Hangout would also be sort of, I won't be surprised if they've started with App Engine and now are looking at other services that are there on GCP. So yeah, App Engine fan, big time for sure. And apart from that, I've also been part of various certification courses that are now available on Google Cloud Platform. So I'll share towards the end what's there on the certification side of things. And there are various courses. There's a 1-day overview course. There's also a 4 or 5 day course that goes to various modules that are there in GCP. So these are those course numbers which you see: CP 100, 200, 300, and I've been part of their content creation team. Apart from that, I blog quite a bit. So if you want to see what I write about, you could check out this link out here. All right, so let's move forward with an overview of Google Cloud Platform. So what I'll be doing is going through various services, so that I think at the end of the day, your takeaway from this could be that, what's there really in GCP, what are the various services, whether it's on big data or on mobile or on the compute side of things, what's available out here. So I'll briefly touch upon some of these services, and then I have a few demos that also I could end up showing. So this particular slide, which you see on cloud computing, this is pretty much a standard one, and you probably even know infrastructure as a service or platform as a service, and then the software as a service side of things. Now, when it comes to Google Cloud Platform, This platform really addresses the IaaS, that is the infrastructure, and the platform, and we'll touch upon that. So really, the other thing which you see, SaaS, that's really people who build applications, and it could be offered as a SaaS service. And of course, there are popular SaaS apps of Google themselves, for example, Gmail. But that's not really, of course, it's built on it. Sorry, it's running on the same infrastructure that's even provided to you as part of Google Cloud Platform, but that's not really addressed by the services. So if you're looking at platform as a service, so App Engine, for example, that sort of fits over here, and the infrastructure as a service, and that's what we'll see. There's the compute thing that lets you, provision VMs, put your own software. So if you've used, for example, Amazon Web Services and EC2 and all, so that's the kind of infrastructure as a service that's also available on GCP. And we'll see various parts of it. And the next slide here, which is Google Cloud Platform, and here you see quite a few circles out here, but really these are all the pieces, that are there in the GCP platform, and we'll touch upon what's there in each of these. But at a high level, what you should see, get from this slide really is that each of these areas are addressed via various services, and depending upon the features and requirements, you could pick a product or two. And it's not like you need to use all of this in order to be on the GCP platform, but you could really just say, okay, I think I just need storage, or I just need the compute side of things, or some of the big data tools. So it's pretty much modularized in a sense that you could just pick and choose which area you want to use for Google Cloud Platform. So we'll take a look at what comes under now each of these modules. So let's look at compute side first. So compute, this is really your infrastructure as a service. So there are various things over here as well as PaaS, but you've got compute engine, container engine, and app engine. And you might be knowing about app engine. Maybe some of you have even worked on the compute engine side of things. So app engine is the platform as a service. Compute engine is the infrastructure as a service. And just a couple of days back, they've also gone live with their another service here called the container engine. And for some of you folks who've heard about Docker, so if you've been hearing a lot about Docker in the last 6 months, 1 year or so, it's not a coincidence, but it's just that most of the cloud vendors have started adopting Docker, and container engine is the service on Google Cloud Platform that allows you to run not just Docker, images and containers, but it also is powered by something called Kubernetes, which is an open source orchestration engine for containers. So it lets you manage containers at scale, sets up clusters of containers and things like that. Let's look at some of these things a little bit more. So compute engine, right, which is the first part. Now, in compute engine, what we have really is that, three keywords are there when it comes to computing. So it's virtual machines, it's disk, and it's network. So VMs are like, okay, give me a Linux box, whichever flavor that you want, or give me a Windows box. So you basically provision machines. Yeah, you get the disks which you can attach to them of various sizes, and of course then you build a whole network around it as to which ports are open, what kind of services are accessible from outside, with the right kind of access rules around it. So if you need infrastructure, if you need this raw VMs, and then you want to put your own software on it, then you can use compute engine.
Ramin, I can't hear you any longer.
much memory you want, how many cores you want, what kind of OS you want to install on it. You could do load balancing. We have a demo of load balancing. We'll see that, and all other typical, I would say, infrastructure DevOps related stuff, where you may want to monitor it. You may want to snapshot a particular VM for restoring it later, things of that nature. So this is your infrastructure component. App Engine, quite a few of you should be familiar with this. App Engine has been there for a while, and it's been there on various runtimes. For example, there's Java, there's Python, there's PHP, and there's also the Go programming language. But the value of App Engine really is that you don't have to deal with infrastructure. It's a fully managed platform. So the idea is focus on your app, develop your app, and use some simple tools, whether at command line or at the IDE level, and just simply deploy your application. And then App Engine takes care of instantiating the right kind of instances at the back end and running the code for you and even scaling. So
Hello. Yeah, Anuja.
back their results. It provides you a Memcache and also a NoSQL data store. So various services are provided to you via API so that you can immediately get productive on this. So that's PaaS, which is App Engine. So we've talked of compute. We've talked about App Engine, and now we'll go to this the latest thing that's out here for running containers. And if you got a background from Docker, then some of these things become clear. So that's Container Engine. It's out of beta now, a couple of days back, so it's in general availability. So it comes along with the full SLA behind it. And to give you a brief, maybe quite a few of you would not be that familiar with really changing the way we sort of deploy, develop, and run applications. So traditionally, the problem, if you've been in a development shop, always has been that once you finish your development, then you need to hand over your app to the testing team, and and then there are all kinds of issues. Maybe you forgot some instruction, or the testing team needs to take care of the right application version, do the right settings, run some scripts before they could really test. So basically the idea is there you would like that once it's tested on your machine and from a development perspective, the entire environment is something you could just ship as is to testing. And similarly, once testing is done, that same environment could be potentially running in production or in staging. So containers really are taking this pain away, and streamlining a lot of the deployment and running applications in a standard portable fashion. That's the key over here. And some of us may always kind of bring up this point that, okay, so how are these different really from virtual machines?
Raman,
Like, yeah,
we are back to seeing your video. So,
okay. um, I don't know why this happens, but it's fine. Hold on. So maybe I'll remain here. Is this okay somewhat?
Yeah, this is okay. Perfect.
Okay. Or should I go in full screen? Is this visible still?
Yeah, this is fine. What you have is fine. Let's just
Okay.
continue with this.
All right. Okay. So the point I was making is that sometimes you know if you've been using VMware and things of that nature, you might have this question that so how are containers really different from a VMware sort of an image? And the key answer to that would be that they are much more leaner compared to it, because it uses a shared OS kernel over here, so that you don't have to package every time the guest OS completely with the whole application. So the diagram which you see over here, you see that you got this app code, right? So which is an application, and it has some libraries that it probably depends on. But then you'll find that the node kernel is actually shared, which means that the containers on their own are pretty much lean, and in terms of a footprint, they are vastly less compared to a virtual machine. As a result of that, they also start up very quickly, which is a key thing when you're trying to scale in a cloud environment. So even if you don't get some of these things right now, I think the key to just take back is that containers definitely are changing the way we package, we deploy, and we run our application. So if you've been still waiting to sort of learn a bit more about Docker and containers, I think this would be a great time where you just sort of jump into it, so that you understand the future of how apps are likely to get packaged and deployed. But the diagram here is sort of key to understanding what's going on behind the scenes in terms of why it is so less in footprint. But in any case, what Google Container Engine does and what's running behind the scenes is actually an open source project called Kubernetes. And this, what it does is that yeah, it's okay to run a container on its own. You can think of a container as running basically your application that's sort of, I would say running on its own. It's got a boundary where it cannot interfere with other containers and things like that. But on its own, you may soon find that you may need to run multiple containers. You may also have a need for scaling up and down various containers depending upon your load and things of that nature. So that's where Kubernetes comes in as a container orchestrator, where behind the scenes, all you need to do is provide it some specification files, which are like YAML-like in nature, and it would go ahead and then manage the whole containers, their life cycle, scaling up and down. If a container dies, it could even start it, logging, monitoring, and things of that nature. So you'll really find that if you look at it, right, that whole pain point of giving your software over to the testing team, and then even eventually putting it into the deployed environments, is streamlined quite a bit with the container engine. Okay, so if I have to just recap some of these containers and DevOps and stuff of that nature, and this is what you see over here are like four areas, but each of these are provided on the Google Cloud Platform. So you've got Container Engine on your left, which is again we talked about it just right now, and it provisions clusters, and you could potentially scale to thousands of nodes behind the scenes. And in order to make sure that the right kind of OS is running and it's optimized, so they also give you Linux VMs that you could spin up, and with all of these tools all pre-configured and ready to use. Container engines, for those who've been working with containers and Dockers, the model is like, you put an image somewhere in a registry, and then you pull and push. So almost like a Git-like kind of model is there for your application images, from which you spawn up containers. So there's also a hosted registry option available for containers called the Google Container Registry, where you could actually host your images privately. And because of the high-speed networks, it's a great way to sort of spin up containers very quickly from the registry. And
Ramin, if you can hear me, I can't hear you, and I'm sure people on the who watching cannot hear you either.
Setup on that. So this is the whole, I would say, containers and DevOps. If you want an end-to-end thing where moment the source code changes, you would like to trigger a
Uh,
build.
Ramin, we can't see your screen again, and your voice was cutting out a little bit. Okay, we can
Are
see
you
it
able
now.
to
Yeah, we
see
can
it?
see it now. Yeah, we can see it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, yeah. So, I mean, in short, if you're looking to create this whole, I would say, continuous build and deployment sort of a scenario, even at cloud scale, so where you put your source code into the repository and it triggers a build, and then it sort of goes behind the scenes and builds out the whole image for you, puts it into the registry, and then even it may trigger a container pull and a start to launch the new instance of the new version that you put in. So it's potentially possible with all these pieces that are there on the Google Cloud Platform. Okay, moving forward, we've got the networking part of things. And again, in networking, you got a DNS service that's also hosted by them to have quite a high speed DNS, I would say, service within your compute instances. You also got Cloud Interconnect. And Cloud Interconnect is a secure way by which you could connect your on-premise infrastructure to the Google Cloud services. So if you're looking at setting up a VPN between your on-premise stuff or a private network onto the Google Cloud, Cloud Interconnect is the solution for that. Apart from that, in networking, you've got load balancing of both kinds, the network load balancing also, and the HTTP load balancing also. And we'll see the network load balancing in action. So basically, you've got several VMs and instances. And if you want to push them behind a load balancer, it's fairly straightforward, which we'll see in action. Big data. This has some pretty interesting solutions out here which you could potentially use. And again, I'd like to reiterate here that it's perfectly possible for you to just say, okay, I think I just want to use BigQuery product from the Google Cloud Platform. It's feasible because each of these services are available both from a web point of view as well as command line, and they've also got APIs. So you could always integrate any of these as you may wish into your application. So on the big data side, first, if we look at BigQuery, um, BigQuery, it's more like a data analytics service in the cloud, but with an interesting thing that it has the potential to actually process, billions of rows of data literally in seconds, and we'll see some of those things in action. So if you've got some SQL like knowledge also, and if you've got your data put out there, it's really a great product where you could perform your analytics and fire up these queries, and you find that almost maybe 10 million, 20 million, 30 million rows, it is able to process in hardly a few seconds. So if you ever try to run something like that on a normal, SQL like database, then you know what I'm talking about. So it's interesting. We'll take a look at BigQuery to see how it goes. But in short, this is like the analytics as a service available in the cloud. And again, no hardware setup, right? That's the beauty of it. So you may wonder that if it's got 10, 20 million rows of data, then what kind of infrastructure do I need to provision upfront to run this? So if you've set up Hadoop like architectures, you've actually invested your time as well as capex into building that sort of a hardware, you may be surprised here that that's something done behind the scenes for you. It's just for the purposes of executing your query. Google Cloud Platform, BigQuery behind the scenes goes, provisions the instances, fires up in parallel the whole thing, and then sort of aggregates the results out. So it's entirely seamless. You don't have to set up any hardware costs, any hardware upfront. It just does that for you. We'll see that in action actually in a while. So wait for that. Then you've got Cloud PubSub. This is again like any typical asynchronous messaging architecture. And here, this is basically like a backbone, and you could connect various services. So if you've worked with any kind of messaging architectures where you've got publish, subscribe, or you've got one publisher and you've got multiple clients who sort of should get notified in an asynchronous fashion, then PubSub is the service. And all these services which I'm talking about are in GA. GA means general availability, which means that they are they are sort of supported by the full SLA as well as the uptime that it promises, and with full support from Google. So in PubSub, again, if you look at this diagram, it should be straightforward that you could connect not just various Google Cloud Platform services, but you could even connect your own applications in an asynchronous fashion with the Cloud PubSub acting as a backbone. So again, if you feel that this is the only service you want to use of it, you can always create a project, enable the PubSub APIs, and then connect the rest of your apps via that. Not necessary that you have to use other platforms. Now, Cloud Data Flow. This is a very interesting product. And if you've been doing any kind of data processing pipelines or ETL based transforms. So for example, let's take a CSV file and then let's convert it into some other data. Then maybe extract some information from that, aggregate it. So if you've been doing that for various files, but of course now we are talking about fairly big data where these files could be potentially in gigabytes or even terabytes. Then and plus, if it's a batch mode or streaming mode. By streaming mode, it means that data is actually coming in real time, and your job now is that as the data is coming in, can we identify some patterns of data? Can we filter it out? Can we aggregate something? Things of that nature. So Cloud Data Flow is the product for that. And again, it's got a great programming model. You don't have to do any infrastructure provisioning at the back end. You define your programming model, the source and the sink, that you want to process, and then behind the scenes, it runs it out for you. So in short, it's for running large data sets, processing them, transforming the data, doing that, and plus it runs in batch as well as stream based mode. It's got a unified programming model. Currently, it's available in Java language, and it lets you, define what your transformations are. And plus, you don't have to do any of the infrastructure provisioning behind the scenes to make this run. Okay, so that's the big data side of things. We had BigQuery, we had PubSub, and we had Cloud Data Flow. Then, all these things are running, right? You've got some VMs, you've got some, disks that are there, you've got some big data stuff that's going on, logs, storage, whatnot. But at the end of the day, you want some monitoring. And by monitoring, of course, it's not just a simple, logger or a logs kind of a service, but you may also want some dashboards. You may also want to define your own, metrics on which you can define some thresholds. And if those thresholds are violated, you may want to get notified in some way. So typical monitoring that you may want to do on any of these services, including your applications, is provided by this monitoring sort of, umbrella. And under this, it's got everything. It's got just simple cloud logging also. It's got a trace service where you can actually monitor your APIs and how well they're doing on performance. So you can do some performance benchmarking also and find out if certain services are not running as quick as you would want in terms of latency. Of course, it's got these dashboards and metrics that you can set up to get notified of your own alerts. Storage. Storage, multiple options that are available, and it depends on the flavor and the kind of requirement that you may have. So cloud storage, this is
So Raman, if you can hear me, at least I can't hear you, and I'm sure others are facing the issue.
Have to create the Cloud SQL instance. It gives you the connection parameters and you're set. Cloud data store, for those of you who are aware of NoSQL, like databases like MongoDB and all, this is a similar offering where it's a NoSQL based data store in the cloud. And if you need that kind of a service, again, Cloud Data Store is something that's sort of integrated even with App Engine, but now it's also available as a separate service with full APIs, so that you want to integrate into any service of yours, you could use that. Bigtable was a fairly recent entry, and this is for extremely large amounts of database, especially for
Raman, your audio is gone again, I think. If you can hear me. Hey, Raman.
with an integrated authentication thing now. So between services and service accounts are available to make it easier to actually talk to various services from the platform. Firebase. This is again on the mobile side of things. So for those of you who are, mobile developers and are interested in working with Firebase, this is something that
Uh, Raman, I can't hear you again. I think we're having some issues with you.
okay,
Okay, it seems we have you back. Can you disable your video? I think that
yeah,
will make
once
it
more.
better.
Can you see the screen again?
Yeah, we can see the screen.
Yeah. I don't know if there is some sort of a setting that does this, but okay, it doesn't matter. All right. So the last thing I have is the developer tools, and of course I've just shown here one tool over here, Cloud Endpoints. Cloud Endpoints is a quick way by which you could generate REST APIs from code that's running on App Engine, basically. And it also gives you, or it basically generates the client libraries for you in Java, in iOS, so that you can integrate into your Android and iOS application. So if you're looking at App Engine apps exposing REST-based APIs and also giving you various client SDKs, you could look at Cloud Endpoints. And apart from that, which I have not sort of mentioned over here, is this whole ecosystem again of Google APIs also. So you've got YouTube APIs, you've got analytics, you've got AdMob, AdSense, pretty much that whole translate API, prediction API. There are so many other APIs also that form part of the whole ecosystem that you could use from the Google Cloud Platform. Of course, you could access it from outside also. All right, so that's pretty much what I had in terms of, this whole landscape of different tools that are out there. So if you've been thinking that App Engine is that's all there is to Google Cloud Platform, or what are different options that storage is there now, or even on the big data side of things, you can see that there are various solutions out there, and a lot of them are pretty much easy to start off with. So I would suggest that if you want to really try out, this is a great moment to look at some of these offerings. So yes, what we have now is demo time, and I've lined up a few demos for you that show these three items which you see. One is the Google Cloud Launcher. So we'll see that in action, and Google Cloud Launcher is basically how quickly you, with a few clicks, you could launch popular packages. So for example, what we'll do is that, let's say we want to install WordPress, and one option could be, we'll take this whole VM, we'll SSH into the VM box, and then we'll download WordPress, install it, blah, blah, blah. So of course you could do it that way, but Google Cloud Launcher has packaged more than 150 plus packages, which you see over here. And I'll go to that in a moment. So almost 150 plus solutions, whether it's WordPress or Drupal or any of the CRMs, or your web or NoSQL, just pick and choose. I mean, it should hopefully have the solution that you're looking for. And with a few clicks, what it does is, behind the scenes, it will provision the compute engine VMs. It will install the software, put in the typical configuration, and boom, you're like ready to go. So let's look at this whole thing over here. So let's go and see how easy it is to set up the WordPress application as an example. So I'm going to now switch over to my web browser over here, where I'm logged into my Google account, and this is the Google Developer Console. And Gaurav, just interrupt me in case the screen is not clear or something goes off, right? Yeah.
I think we're good
Okay.
for now. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so if you can see, once you're logged into the Google Cloud Console, and this is basically your, sort of a control center or the dashboard where everything happens. And you'll see that some of the things that we talked about in the slides. So we had the compute part, under which you got App Engine, Compute Engine, Container Engine. Then under storage, you got, the four options that we saw. Under big data, there are various things. Under deploy and management, you've got monitoring, you've got the source code stuff. So it's pretty much nicely sort of compartmentalized, like most other, I would say, cloud consoles. So you can sort of navigate into whichever service that you want as quickly as possible. So in our case here, you got this thing called a click to deploy. So under deploy and manage, if I just make this a bit larger, you've got this click to deploy option. So when I go there, so what you see over here now is that it's showing you various packages. These are just some of the packages that are there. As I told you, there are almost 150 plus, and you could search. So you could see that if you want to deploy a cluster of Cassandra NoSQL instances, or even Chef or Drupal, you pretty much get to pick and choose what you want. And the idea here is that, yes, I could always provision the instance, I could deploy the software on my own, but how about just doing a few clicks and getting it all set up? So as part of that, what we'll do over here is, you see this WordPress over here. So we'll just try and set up a simple WordPress server on Google Compute Engine. So to do that, I'll click on deploy. And what happens is that it brings up a form which I need to fill out. So it tells me what's my deployment name. Okay, I could go ahead with any name that I want. I'll stick to the defaults. Then zone, right? Zone is something where you can decide where your compute engine or the VMs would be residing. So there are various zones. Like, I mean, it's there in US, it's in Europe, it's in Asia. So these are there so that you can decide where you would like your instances to be running. So maybe we'll go ahead with one of the zones here. Machine type, right? As I mentioned, there are so many machine types, depending upon how many CPUs you want, how much RAM you want. So, of course, each of these have their own price. Like you can see, there's a high memory instance also. If you're doing extremely memory intensive work, you could almost go up to a 104 GB, but of course, it's going to cost you a lot more. So, I'll go ahead with the standard one, which is a 4 GB machine. I could even go in with what kind of disk type. So I could take an SSD, which is much faster, slightly more cost. But I'll go ahead with default ones. And maybe for now, the disk size is enough for me. It's asking me an administrator email account, which I could fill up, and I'll go ahead with other defaults for now. So if you look at it, right, that's pretty much all it's telling you to do. Just tell me what's the name of your deployment. Just tell me in which geographical zone you would like the VMs to be running, and just tell me the type of machine types, or what kind of hardware configuration, in short, that you want for your machines. So all I'll do is I'll go ahead and deploy WordPress, and now it's going behind the scenes and doing some stuff, right? So it just, what it is doing is, of course, it'll take a few minutes. We'll get to that in a moment. But behind the scenes, it's going to understand, okay, you want to deploy this. um, it's going to go ahead and launch some instances. So it provisions it for you, it downloads the software, it configures the software, it will give you a public IP, pretty much the whole thing it's doing behind the scenes now in a one-click fashion. So what we could do is, maybe we could come back to it, or we could keep looking at it. But yeah, typically this gets done in like 2.5 minutes or so, and we'll have a fully deployed version. So while this is going on, I can show you some other, or let's move on to the other demo also, and then we'll come back to the screen, and hopefully it should be done by then. All right. So if I go back to the presentation, so I've got Cloud Launcher, which is, this is what I'm showing you right now, the one-click deploy. The next demo that I have for you is, if I go back to the screen which lists down the demos, is a load balancer in action. So it's really compute engine. We start several servers, we will put them behind a load balancer and things like that. I'll come to that in a moment. I'll just keep switching whether the deployment is done or not. And in the meanwhile, let's do the third demo first, which is a bit faster and also interesting, which is on BigQuery. So what I'll do is I'll just go to that screen, and then we'll do the load balancer, because that's going to take about 10-15 minutes sort of to do. So on the BigQuery demo, let's see if it's done now. Not yet. Okay. So on BigQuery demo, so BigQuery, as I mentioned to you, was the whole analytics as a service, and it's available to you in the cloud, and it lets you almost query, I would say, millions of rows in like 2 or 3 seconds hardly, and it does it via simple SQL, like data syntax. So let's go to this BigQuery service, which I have over here. Now, obviously, when you are doing analysis for your own data, you may need to have a specific license for it.
Hey Roman, your audio is gone again, I think. So if you can hear me, I cannot hear you. So I'm hoping it comes back like it has the few times in the past. For the moment, I can't hear you.
And what does this database have? This database really has a complete revision history for all Wikipedia articles. So what we are going to do now is, for a database that is of this size, almost 35 gig, and this database has almost 100
Roman, I can't hear you again. Okay. Maybe another 5 seconds, and you should be back by the law of averages. Hey, Raman. Okay, so it seems we're having some issues with Raman. Okay, I think just in case Raman isn't back within the next few minutes, I think we'll just um, call it a day. I think we have you back. Can you share your screen and put off
Yeah,
your video?
I'm again doing that. Okay. All right. So if you look at it, this query has run across almost that entire database, and it's showing you some results of.
Raman, we don't see your screen as yet.
Okay. Let me know when you see it.
Sure.
I've shared the screen. I'll do
We
it
still
again.
see your video. We don't see your screen. Okay.
I've again done it.
We see it now. Okay.
Okay.
Good.
All right. So to repeat, we've just run a straightforward query across the entire database that's there and said that show me all the pages and also the revisions that have happened on the Wikipedia pages for any page whose title is Jaipur. So you can see how quickly in hardly 2.4 seconds it's gone ahead and got the data for you. And try some of these things on your typical SQL databases, and you'll know it's not going to return anytime soon. Let's also look at some more stuff, right? For example, here is a slightly different query, almost similar in nature, but what we are saying is that I'll format it, that, okay, that get me all the titles and their count for the what you call articles whose title contains the word Jaipur, but those who are at least having number of revisions greater than 50. So in short, you'll be able to see which are the most revised pages on Wikipedia that have Jaipur in their title. So once again, I'll run this, and there it is in about 2.41 second. It's sort of processed that data, and if you look at it, it tells you which are the most popular pages, maybe in terms of revisions that have happened. Right now, look at another query. How about finding the contributors who are making the most revisions, especially for the articles that contain the word Jaipur? So let's again run this. Sorry. There you go. So there are those who have been making more than 50 revisions for any title that contains the word Jaipur in them, and these are the contributors with the maximum number of revisions for a particular title. Also, if you look at it, you could even do something of this sort where I'm going ahead and saying, let me format this for you. So what it is saying is find me all the titles again with revisions, but also where the title contains, some 6 or 7 cities in and around uh, Jaipur. So again, if you look at some of these queries, if you're going to run it on, 30, 40 gig of data, it's going to take a terrible amount of time. But something like BigQuery, maybe we can say number of revisions, maybe, I don't know, 50 is kind of good enough. Let's run this. And the same thing, right? Okay, 3.4 seconds, you got some other uh, results from that. So this just shows you the power of BigQuery, in terms of how fast it's able to do that, how easily it's also possible, because with a little bit of SQL knowledge, you're sort of good enough to, go on this. And again, the pricing is extremely reasonable. So for about 1 terabyte of data that you're going to process, it's like $5 of pricing. So it's quite a bit. I mean, quite convenient. And again, I did not provision any instances. I didn't do any hardware sort of setting up or anything like that. Get your data. Again, it can read from various services. So you could put your data in Google Cloud Storage. You could even stream into BigQuery as data is going in. So it's entirely up to you how you want to do. Right. So that was the BigQuery demo. Let's go back to our WordPress deploy that sort of is not happy with something. So what I'm going to do is maybe to make it simple, I'll just delete this one and give it a shot to see what's going on. And while that's happening, we could always, I could again give this a shot. In the meanwhile, we're going to go now to our other demo of load balancer in action, right? So let me go back to the steps which are there for the load balancer. But again, the title here is Compute Engine in Action, because what you will see is that we will provision several Linux boxes for you. So in short, what we're going to do is we'll first set up one box or 2 boxes or 3 boxes. Let's take 3, right? So we're going to set up 3 Linux boxes, all set up with running Apache web server, simple home page, right, on that. And first we will just validate that, hey, are these boxes all alive, running, and can we access it via their public IP? So once that is set up, the next thing for us would be a logical step of saying, hey, can we set up a load balancer so that, these instances are behind it? And then you will find that it's straightforward to set one up, and then we could access, the traffic will get served from any one of it. And then finally, we'll also take a look at how cleverly, if you bring one of the servers down, the load balancer is able to detect that and then not serve traffic from that. Similarly, if you bring it up again, you will find that boom, it's like coming back again. So let's see step by step, right? And what I'm doing here is that I am going to provision 3 boxes. Over here, you're just seeing the diagram for one so that you understand what I'm doing with one of these boxes. So what I'm saying is that I want to provision one Linux VM, or in other words, give me one Linux box, okay? And when you give me that box, please set up Apache also on it automatically. I don't want to again go in and set up Apache and stuff like that. Why don't we automate this in such a way that when I say create instance, at that time only you should also install Apache. So that is typically done by something called the startup script. So you can associate startup as well as shutdown scripts with your instance. In our case here, if you look at it, the startup script is very straightforward. For those who are familiar with Linux, even if you're not, what it is doing is it's just first updating the packages, then it's installing Apache, and then whatever is a host name for it, we are simply writing it to the home page or the index page, which is served by Apache. So if you hit that Apache box from your browser, it should just give you the instance name for the home page, which is index.html. So similarly, the next step which you see, we'll do it in a while, just be patient, is that we are going to set up 3 such instances individually served, right? So let's get started with this whole thing. and then we'll get back to deployment as we move along after this whole demo. So I could do all this from the UI, but I'm going to show you that the whole thing can also be done from the command line perspective. So I've got these script commands which I've kind of ready, and what I'll do is, so again, this is my startup script which I want to associate with every instance, where it just installs Apache and overwrites the index.html with a particular host name for it. So the first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to create 3 instances over here. So let me just fire that command. So I'm on the command line.
Raman, your audio is gone again, and I think your screen is frozen, so you're probably having some internet issues. Um, Raman, if you can hear me, we can't really hear you or see your screen. Okay, I think we have you back now.
Okay, are you able to see the command? Where did I leave? If you could tell me.
15 seconds back.
Okay.
We
So,
can't see your screen till now.
okay.
Okay, we can see it now. It's back. Yeah.
Okay. So what's happening now is that I'm just creating 3 instances in the cloud. And all I'm saying is that when you create these instances, by default, it will give a Debian Linux VM with a 3 point something gigabyte memory. And I'm saying that please provide the startup script which installs Apache. So see what has happened. It's gone ahead and created it, and it's also given me that there are 3 instances that are running right now, and they are running in that zone. This is the machine type, and it's got an internal IP also and an external IP also, and the status is running. So what this means is, if I do a curl on, okay, are you able to see my screen again? Gaurav, are you able to see my screen?
I can see it, but I think it's frozen. Do you want to do something on your screen on the shell
Yeah, so
prompt?
if I do a curl of the command, see it gives me the front end one. Were you able to see that?
Uh, we could see it earlier, but we can't see it now. It's black. At least okay, it's back now. Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so if I ping, sorry, if I curl any of the other public instances also, it's going to give me front end too, right? Similarly. So again, I could do a curl on maybe even the third instance to see if it's running or not, and I'll find it's running. And this is nothing but I could take this IP, okay, I could put that into the browser, and I should see it actually running over there, right? Which is the VM instance that's there in the cloud. If I go back to my console for a moment, which is in compute engine VM instances, this will give me a list of course, I had the instance one before called labs, but if you see front end 1, 2, and 3, these are all set up which we created right now, and these were the external IPs, and you could go to any of the external IPs even from here. So from, for example, front end 2, if we do, See, it's going to take up front end too, right? So these are three servers. In it was as straightforward as provisioning the Linux boxes, setting up Apache, setting up a home page, and they give you the public IP. So these are three instances already and looking good at this point in time. Now, the next thing we are going to do is, so if I go back to my slides, let me go there. So what we've done till now is we've set up these 1, 2, and 3 boxes, and we've been able to, this is what we've done till now. Individually, each of the VMs or machines or instances or servers, whatever you want to call, is running fine. And we've been using curl to sort of just ping those, sorry, to hit those public IP addresses. So this is looking good right now. But obviously, what you want is that in a load balancer sort of a scenario, you want something of this sort, which is that we should be hitting ideally the load balancer IP and not the individual instances. And then the load balancer is going to be clever enough to route the traffic accordingly to the particular instance, right? So what we want is that
Um, Raman, I think we've lost you again.
using from the command line also, but I will also show you now via the UI, so that it becomes clear for you that way also. So I'm going to go to the compute engine side of things.
Okay, I think we've lost Raman again. In any case, I think, Raman, are you back?
Yes, I think it keeps doing that repeatedly. I'm again sharing my screen. Let me know when you can see the load balancing configuration screen.
Sure. We can see it now, but I think your connection is not great. So let's, I think, try and wrap this up within the next few minutes. I think people have kind of got the broader idea, but I would like you to actually repeat the GCPUG slides that you had in the beginning, just to kind of quickly walk through people what a GCPUG is and what our next steps will be.
Okay, so you want to go ahead with this thing or like how?
Sure. I mean, let's just complete this part and then go back to the GCPUG slides for a
Okay,
few seconds.
sure. Yeah. So, all right. So I'm going to create a new target pool of instances and I'm going to select the existing instances. So if you can see, I've got my 3 instances here. I'll just add all of them one by one to say that this load balancer pool contains these instances. I can create a default health check, let it be as is on default. And I'm going to go ahead and create the load balancer. So a status screen sort of comes up to create the load balancing resources. So we'll give it a few moments here while it comes up. So what we are doing now, if I go back to that slide, is that we've set up a load balancer now with the pool of instances that we created. And whatever be the load balancer IP, that's basically what we will be now hitting via curl, so that you can see that sometimes the traffic will get served by the front end instance one, or sometimes by two or by three. All right. So the load balancer is now created. It's in effect. And if you look at this whole setup here, so it's got the forwarding rules, which is just the load balancing rule, and this is the load balancer IP. So I'll just copy that for now. And if you look at our target pools, so if you look at this rule and the pool that's associated, in the pool you will find that it's got our three instances and all of them are healthy right now, because all of the three ones are running and the health check is doing its work. So what I can do now is, if I just take one script and maybe keep pinging it via curl for a while. So let me go back to my command prompt, and I'm going to hit now the load balancer IP, and you will find that the service gets served by sometimes by one, by three, by two, right? You could see that it's getting served by different instances and things like that. So similarly, you'll find that, and for the want of time, I can't show you, but you could bring one of the servers down, and once the health check is already configured, so you will find that it will not serve the traffic to that instance. So that's pretty much straightforward as to how a load balancer sort of works. Yeah. Okay, so if I go back to the slides that I had, uh, yeah, apart from that, yeah, the other things were more around that the same infrastructure is available to you when you are deploying applications on the Google Cloud. So, they've got a great network that's spanning multiple, geographies. And in short, just to reiterate, you could mix and match services from various, modules that are out there. And scaling up, scale down should absolutely not be a problem for something of Google's infrastructure that's there in place. And the best part is that the same apps that they're running, probably their Gmail and other Google apps and other services on, is the same infrastructure that you're getting to run your applications. Partners and customers, that's fine. In short, if you want to get started on GCP, you've also got a $300 credit that you could use for 2 months. It's straightforward to sign up at cloud.google.com, and $300 credit is something that kicks in once you've signed up for it, and it's valid for 60 days or whichever comes earlier if you exhaust limit. So that's pretty much what I had in terms of the slides and demos. I wish we didn't have some of those setup issues right now, but yeah, we'll hopefully cover up in future user group meetings. To iterate, Google Cloud Platform user group. So what we have really is that we're starting a chapter in Jaipur, and via that we would like that people who are using the platform, people who want to learn about the platform, can all come together and then share our knowledge about the platform, not just in getting terms of started or some tutorials or hands-on stuff, but even best practices, even if you want to share how you've used Google Cloud Platform in your projects, it would really help the community grow that way. And yeah, we've got 6 chapters. Jaipur is the most recent one. And we would strongly encourage that you join the user group community so that you can at least be updated on some of the news that's happening on Google Cloud Platform. And if any events that are going on or likely to happen, you could get notified about that. Yeah, that's what I had in terms of the presentation and demos. Gaurav, over to you.
Yeah, I think Raman, that's great. So thank you for taking time off and doing this webinar. Likewise, I we could have done without these setup issues, but anyway, I think this is a good start, and I'm really looking forward to the next step, which is us getting together along with Google and doing a workshop or a meetup in Jaipur, where we not only have you and somebody from Google, but as well as some speakers from. I'm sure there are a lot of people doing a lot of good work on Google Cloud platform in Jaipur.
Yeah,
So I think
yeah.
the next step is for us to kind of get together and take this forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think we'll definitely look forward to doing that so that we could demonstrate this. We could even maybe do a small workshop or two that will really help. Yeah, completely agree. Yeah,
Sure. So we'll be in touch, and thank you once again. And
sure.
I think we'll hopefully meet you and rest of the Google Cloud Platform enthusiasts in Jaipur within the weeks to come.
Cool. All right. Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah.
you,
Have a
everyone,
good
and
day.
sorry about the setup issues we had.
No, I mean, sorry from here also. I wish we could control it, but I think we tried to do whatever we could. Thanks a
Sure.
lot.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Bye bye.